Good afternoon, good morning, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and all the ships at sea. Thank you so much for joining us on another exciting Page One Power webinar. In these shows, we typically explore a single topic relevant to the online search and marketing community, including your questions from the audience, and today is no different. Our topic centers around SEO disasters, some top 5 disasters here that we're going to talk about and how to avoid them most importantly. Please follow us on Twitter today at @PageOnePower and follow the global webinar conversation with this webinar's hashtag P1PWebinar. But before we dive into it, let me introduce today's panel. I am your friendly neighborhood marketing events coordinator, Colin Eggleston, and I'm joined today by one of my favorite guests here, Stephen Van Vessum from Content King. Stephen, thanks so much for joining us today.
Hey, Colin, thanks for the intro.
Absolutely. Well, we're really happy to have you today and talking about a topic that I think all of us in the SEO community, I think you spend enough time in this industry, disaster will strike. It's a great to have a story, to talk about at the pub later on, but as it's happening, it's the worst thing in the world, basically, to have a site undergo one of these disasters that you're talking about today. So I'm really happy to have you on and excited to kind of go through and explore these and see how we can kind of prevent these from happening. And as the audience, please submit your questions for us today. If you want to share your disaster or share something that that you want to know more about, please let us know through the questions. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to change the presenter over, give the reins over to you, Stephen, and let you walk us through. All right.
All right. Thank you very much, Colin.
Yeah, looks good on my end.
All right. So today we're going to be talking about 5 disasters from an on-page SEO point of view that I've come across, and basically how they could have been avoided. So I'm going to take you through a couple of scenarios, but first I'll give you a bit of background. When I think about SEO, I think about a race, which is always very tight. You may be ranking second somewhere, and you know the competition is breathing down your neck. So in reality, things go wrong and usually find out too late. People make technical and content-related changes. That's a given fact. And more often than would like, they do that without telling us beforehand. When you slip up, your competitors profit immediately. So as you're ranking second or third, whatever, and you slip up, your pages go down in the Google rankings, you immediately lose traffic, basically, and your competition is profiting from that. And as you're basically fixing the stuff that went wrong, there's no guarantee that you'll win back what you once had. So having said that, you need to be constantly monitoring your website, be on the lookout for changes. And when you see changes, you want to make sure they are the right ones, because we don't like surprises when it comes to SEO. So the million-dollar question is, how do you avoid the SEO disasters? Well, that was actually the reason my business partner and I founded Content King. We had a web agency for about 8 years, and we were constantly having issues with clients and external parties making changes to the site and really not informing us about it, breaking stuff. So while we were responsible for SEO and held accountable for it, there was a ton of stuff going on, and we weren't seeing it in time. So we built Content King, which is a real-time SEO auditing and change tracking suite. Currently, we monitor about 20 million URLs per day for issues and changes. So that means like everyone that uses the system has an ever up-to-date overview of all of the crawl data, on-page changes, and issues that are going on. And one of the benefits of my role in all this is I get to hear everyone's on-page SEO disasters. So I'm going to mention 5 of them. I won't be mentioning names, but they're pretty juicy SEO disasters in there. Yeah, I'm very curious what you're going to think. You don't want to have this sign hanging outside your door. Be sure to monitor your site and handle disasters and avoid them. So the first one is about canonicalization gone wrong. And when we talk about canonicalization, we're talking about the canonical URL, which is often used to battle duplicate content. So there was a website which had duplicate content issues, and the website owner decided to use the canonical URL to battle the duplicate content issues. Seems like a good idea. What actually happened is that the canonical URL referenced the home page on all of the pages. What that means from an SEO point of view is that you're actually telling search engines to drop all of the pages that have the canonical to the home page from the index. And if I visualize that, and you imagine basically these pages being thousands of, or maybe more pages, you're basically telling Google or other search engines, hey guys, you can remove all of the pages except for the home page. So there's a reason this one is the first in the list of SEO disasters, because this is a major one, and the canonical URL is often picked up pretty fast as well.
And that's a pretty big problem right there.
Yes, Colin?
You basically, to your viewers and to Google, you basically just have a homepage as far as Google's concerned.
Exactly.
And I was going to say, so for duplicate content issues like this, if my understanding, this can happen a lot if you are e-commerce. If you have a lot of product pages that are in separate categories, and maybe there's like a category split and there's the same product in 2 or 3 different categories, that I know that can happen a lot. So it can be e-commerce, it can be just about any type of industry.
Definitely. You see a lot of use of canonical URLs in the publishing industry as well. So you may have a piece about, I don't know, stock, and Apple, and the piece may be in multiple categories and available through multiple URLs, and you'd be able to fix that duplicate content issue there, where the piece is available through multiple URLs using the canonical URL. Yep. So here's a screenshot of their analytics traffic, basically. Obviously, this is not a good thing. People were scared. Within 3 weeks, they lost 20% of the pages from the Google index, and organic traffic went down with 40%. So as you can imagine, if your business is really running on organic traffic, this is a big no-go. This is a huge problem. The fix they used to basically fix the issue is they canonicalized all of the pages that were causing duplicate content, and all of the other pages that weren't causing any duplicate content issues just had a self-referencing canonical URL, meaning that you have some page and it just has a reference to itself. So the search engines know that it's actually a page they need to be indexing. So over time, they recovered basically. But in the meantime, imagine all of the business they've lost because of this issue. It's insane.
I mean, I think that's pretty much the the literal definition of an SEO disaster there with losing that traffic. I mean, the repercussions can really echo on through different rankings, different, if it gives your competitors that edge for just that little amount of time, and that can make all the difference between a banner year and maybe going out of business.
Exactly. Yeah. And when you look at the 40% of lost traffic, that 40% may be contributing for 80% to your revenue. Like the impact can be really huge. Yeah. Right. So let's move on to the next one. Oh, by the way, if you want to read up on the canonical URL, if this is something that's new to you, be sure to check out the Google resources on this and the definitive guide to using the canonical tag. So the next one, unfortunately, I encounter quite a lot, is issues with the meta robot settings. So when you have a production environment and a staging environment, you don't want a staging environment to be able to be indexed by search engines because of duplicate content issues, potential customers ending up on the staging environment, which doesn't work properly, perhaps doesn't even support the checkout process, et cetera, et cetera. You want to make sure that the staging environment isn't indexed and isn't accessible. So something we're seeing a lot is that agencies use the meta robots tag and basically say, hey, search engines, don't index all of these pages and don't follow any of these links. And the search engines basically, they listen to that pretty well and they back off. But in this example, the agency did release, and the meta robots no index directive accidentally moved over from the staging environment to the production environment. And the no index directive is basically, it's just one line in the HTML in the source code, and it's not easy to spot. When you just look at the code, you need to be specifically looking for it or have tooling in place which keeps track of this. This kind of stuff happens. What I'm also seeing is, which is related to this, is the robots.txt moving over from staging to production. The robots.txt file is basically defining the rules of engagement for search engines. So what you're seeing is that the robots.txt file is preventing search engines from access to a staging environment. And as you can imagine, when it's accidentally moved over from staging to production, search engines may not have access to the platform all of a sudden. So that's quite an issue right there. So when you have the meta robots no index tag, you're basically saying, hey, search engines, I strongly recommend you remove all of my pages. And this is what it looks like. You're basically saying to Google and the other search engines, guys, remove everything. Don't index anything. So it's a very strong directive. Search engines can choose to ignore it. But obviously from an SEO point of view, this is a big, big issue.
I mean, I have nightmares about this because it's so easy to do. It's so easy to do.
It just happens.
And there's actually, you mentioned a tool. There's one tool that I recommend that can, as a business owner or a site owner, or even if you're as an SEO, I recommend the free tool. It's a Chrome toolbar extension called No Index. I believe it's just called No Index. If you look into the Chrome store, it's free. And as you navigate from page to page, it will tell you if that page on a page level, if it's meta, meta no index or even no follow. It'll show you no follow links as well. It might actually be called no follow. I'll have to put it in the notes. But yeah, and so that extension will live will show you if a page itself is no indexed or if it's on a robot.txt domain level no indexed, which has been a lifesaver for us.
Cool. Yeah, that's good to hear. So definitely it's an easy one to miss, and you should have proper tooling in place to monitor for these kind of things happening. So in this specific example, the organic traffic went down 30%, and at first the agency thought, hey, this client is just got hit with a Google penalty. They just saw rankings go down, organic traffic went down. They started investigating, and when you have to investigate into this, you know it's too late, basically. The damage is done, and it's a matter of recovering as soon as you can. But they took a real big hit here, like the agency's client wasn't too happy about this, as you can imagine. This is the kind of stuff that happens, and you think it doesn't happen that often, but I can tell you it happens a lot. Like, I hear about these things every week, and like an agency may be juggling, I don't know, 50 to 100 clients. If they're like a medium-sized agency, it's hard to do everything 100% well, and like if humans are involved, mistakes are being made, and yeah, these are only some of the examples. All right, so the implemented fix was actually pretty easy. Just put back the settings from the previous state of the platform regarding the Meta robots tag, and that's it. So even though it was only one line of code, it cost them 30% of their organic traffic for a period of time. If you want to read up on the Meta robots tag, be sure to check out the Google resources and the definitive guide to using the Meta robots tag. It's just in the presentation. You can check it out later. There are links. The third example I want to look at together with you is meta information being overridden. When I talk about meta information, I mean the title and the meta description. And the title and the meta description are often used by search engines to basically build up your snippet. So someone searches for something, you have the headline, that's the title, then you have the URL, and then you have the description. So from an SEO point of view, those elements play a very important role, both in your ranking and your click-through rate, the amount of people that see your listing and actually click on it. So in this example, there was a Magento upgrade required. There was some security patches that were released, and the client wanted to upgrade their Magento platform. And as they were basically doing that in a staging environment, they noticed that the SEO plugin they were using to define the meta information needed updating as well. So what they did is they ran the Magento upgrade, removed the old plugin because it wouldn't update, installed a new version of the same plugin, and they released, but they forgot to put back the original templates for the title and the meta descriptions. So what actually happened here is that they replaced all of the 40,000 carefully crafted title and meta descriptions for all of the products to dummy content. So not all of the 40,000 products had like a manually crafted title and meta description. The majority was built up using templates. Because it's like humanly impossible to do this all manually. But a lot of it was manually overridden to tweak it a little bit, just make it stand out a bit more and optimized. And basically all of that was thrown out of the window in this update. So here's an example of what that may look like to illustrate the point. So obviously this doesn't look good. The question is whether Google would even show this. My guess is they would try to kind of guess a better title and meta description when they see stuff like this. But regardless, this is a big disaster.
Yeah, exactly. I actually have lived through this disaster working with working for another company that was a large e-commerce company, and they were doing a migration similar to that with Magento, and it didn't make it to luckily didn't make it to production, but it almost did, to the sense where it was just such an easy thing to, oh, let's just change over, let's just upgrade this quick file, let's just make this change to this system, this platform. All the prices look good, everything looks good, and it's so easy to forget that on that SEO level with those title tags and meta descriptions. And it's you can absolutely, I mean, there's a real monetary hit to that. Like we were talking a couple webinars ago, we were talking about the importance of not having the SEO team and the person, the people that are in charge of kind of monitoring SEO activity, not be siloed away from the other parts of the team, like the content and the development and the graphic design, because they all have to integrate, and at the bottom line, the SEO stuff has to be right. Right, and so this is, I mean, $100,000 in revenue almost seems low to the point of like that potential impact.
Yep. Yeah, I think like they were lucky in this case. Yesterday I was talking to another customer, and they had just brought on a new client, and they said that like due to similar issues, which they didn't recover from, they lost millions. So if it's a large e-commerce platform, that's the kind of damage this stuff can do.
Yeah, I think that it really speaks to kind of the SEO agency, or the SEO industry rather, as a whole, from being this, 10 years ago or plus, from being something kind of like a niche thing that maybe is the cherry on top, to like some, the terrible stereotype of like, oh, it's just the nerds with the laptop and they're telling you stuff about your website and HTML, but they're just eccentrics, and now it's like, no, this has actual bottom line consequences to the tune of basically changing the business, dissolving the business.
Yeah, definitely. I think the often like in some markets, the role of SEO and the SEO specialist is very much underestimated. But if you are good at SEO, you can really make a difference and like help companies like multiply their revenues. So the impact can be huge both ways, both up and down.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so what they did to basically counter the issue that they had here was basically put back the templates. They had an old backup. They grabbed the templates and basically implemented them. But the thing is, these problems, you don't recover from them right away. So I'm guessing this is going to take at least like 3 to 4 weeks, or maybe even a couple of months to get back at the original level of SEO traffic that we're doing. And even then, there's no guarantee they're going to come back up top. So yeah, that's a strange thing about SEO. Like once you lose something, there's no guarantee you're going to win it back.
No. Yeah, that's why. Yeah, it's so precarious. The analogy of a high-speed race, like a car or motorcycle, I think is so apt, because you lose a little bit of ground, and even if you lose a foot, that's the race is determined by inches. So it could be game over, unfortunately.
Yeah. All right. So also in this case, if you want to read up on meta information, there's a couple of links there. The next one is about a redirection mistake. And this is a more visual problem. but you do have to notice it. So what happened is there was a multi-language setup, 4 websites, 4 different languages, and they were all basically driven by one CMS. So it's Friday afternoon, 5 p.m. Development pushes an update to add some 301 redirects. To basically 301 redirect some old URLs to new URLs, which should be like a routine job. They commit it, it's been released, they open up a beer and celebrate the weekend. What happens is the redirect change accidentally triggers 3 of the 4 websites redirecting to the first one, basically. So you have the 4 websites, and 3 of the other ones are redirecting to the remaining 4. Users, visitors, and search engines are being redirected to the one language. And usually that's not the language they were expecting or the language they are able to speak or read. But like if you're basically in your bubble and you're, for instance, you have like a English, Dutch, German, and French version of the website, and you're based out of England or the US, and you're basically checking your version of the site and everything looks fine. But yeah, the folks from the other regions, they're having issues. So here the 301 redirect signals that the content has been permanently moved from the 3 websites to the other website, essentially merging all 4 websites into one. So to illustrate this, this is basically what happens. So website 2, 3, and 4 are permanently moved to website 1, and you're basically asking Google to consolidate the websites and remove websites 2, 3, and 4. So as you can imagine, this is a big issue. So on Tuesday morning, someone on the team notices the redirects, and the developers revert the redirect changes, luckily in time before search engines process the redirects. Luckily for them, in these cases, the redirects take a bit of time to be picked up and processed by search engines. Perhaps also because these can have a huge impact, both like from an immediate visitor point of view and an SEO point of view. So they were basically saved by the like the way search engines handle these redirects. But if it would have stayed there longer, like think in terms of I don't know, a couple of weeks, this could have been a big issue, and they dodged the bullet here. If you want to read up on the redirects, a couple of links again. It's a very interesting tool in your toolbox to use. There's different types of redirects, different applications. Check it out. The 4th one is actually a very common one. A website was launched without migrating the old URLs. So after months of hard work, everyone celebrates as the new website is launched. And the website owners were actually driving around to everyone involved in the project, handing out cakes. Yes.
Is that real? That's real?
Yep, that happened. And as they were basically giving everyone cakes, the website was a total mess, and yeah, they only realized as they were like halfway out in the country. They were getting calls saying, "Hey guys, I know you're delivering cakes, but we have a pretty big issue here."
That's amazing. I don't think I've ever gotten a cake before, but that would be a lovely tradition.
The URL migration was done. So basically, the agency looked into what old URLs were being had to be migrated to the new URLs. The redirects were prepared, but it wasn't just never implemented. So even though it was like checked off on the checklist as something that was prepared, it wasn't included in the launch, basically. So what happened was users and search engines were hitting 404 pages. and no authority was passed from the old URLs, which have generally links from other websites. No authority was passed to the new URLs. So basically, from an SEO point of view, search engine is crawling the new website, but basically finding new URLs with no history, no authority, and basically those two properties play an important role from an SEO point of view. So this is a big problem. It's something that is very visual, and I think you're gonna add something smart here, Colin.
No, I'm just going to say is that on the link building side, at Page One Power, we encounter this a lot. So if we build a new page, a piece of content, whether it be like an in-depth blog post or some interactive graph or interactive data or whatnot, and then we build a bunch of get a bunch of links pointing to that great piece of content and all that, and then a lot of times that page will get moved, or they might even remove the page altogether and say, well, thanks for building us those links, and I guess we don't need this page anymore, so I'm just cleaning up my site map, and I'm just going to go ahead and just kill the page. And then all those links now are 404'd, pointing to that 404, and are just basically just done for. And it really happens a lot. And we obviously recommend keeping the page up, but at the very least, a proper redirect strategy, if you're going to be moving those important pages around, is really something that's so important and can really, like our efforts, it all depends on the page, and pointing all those links to that exact URL, and if that URL changes or anything goes wrong with that, then it just basically shuts off all that equity. So important.
Yes, definitely. And if you look at it from an expenses point of view or an investment point of view, make that term better. So say you hire Page One Power to earn links for you, basically. Put great pieces out there, promote it, get the links. And I don't know about your rates exactly, but like if you're like doing serious SEO, you may be spending, I don't know, between 20 and 50,000 a year on some serious campaigns. And imagine just throwing all of that away when you don't properly migrate to URLs. That's basically the way to look at it. It's such a waste of the investment.
Yeah.
So the website owner that was handing out the cakes, they were getting distressing messages. Like customers were emailing saying, "Hey guys, I bookmarked a bunch of pages. They don't work. I was using search engines and went to the site. Ended up on 404 pages. People were tweeting about it. That wasn't a good thing." And you notice this stuff immediately, like the loss of traffic is enormous, and the immediate loss of revenue is just very damaging. So even though this is something that you notice pretty quickly, it's something you can avoid. And this is just costing them a lot of money. So after the celebration was done, they kind of had to recover from this. So what they did is basically implemented the redirects, which were already prepared, which fixed the immediate problem for users, and also it takes a bit longer, the SEO side of things. And then they continued celebrating.
Right. Yeah. Now continue celebrating. Interesting. I was just thinking of like we've been talking about SEO and search engine consequences, right, for these disasters. But I'm just thinking that once it hits Twitter, once it hits social media, that's a PR disaster, right? So you take a PR hit and you take an SEO and obviously revenue hit as well. For something that's basically a simple fix, a relatively simple, straightforward fix, but that can have those repercussions, not only SEO, but also PR, I think is it's just astounding. It just shows you the scale of how things can quickly kind of turn out that way these days.
Yes, yes, that's correct. Yeah, the consequences can be huge. And I'm just not just saying that because I encounter these things a lot. I'm saying this because I talk to the actual business owners,
Yeah.
and I hear about their stories. And the problem we have is that everyone thinks this kind of stuff only happens rarely, but that's not the case. This is happening right now as well, maybe even to your side. So it's not a matter of if it's going to happen. It's just a matter of when it's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, are you prepared to deal with these kind of things? Do you have monitoring in place? Do you have processes in place? Do you know what to do when these things happen? Yeah. All right, so there's a couple of resources that are interesting to mention. The Google resource on migrations, Omicido's talk, which was done at Brighton SEO last September on migrations. That's a good one. There's a video of it as well. I'll be sure to check it out. And check out the definitive guide on using the redirects as well. There's a specific section about migrations and basically how to deal with something you touched on, Colin, about basically pages that get removed or are moved over to a different URL. Like for instance, you have this with campaign pages. Yeah, be sure to check it out. So I said I was going to mention 5 SEO disasters. That's correct. This one is actually an analytics disaster. What happened is that website was redesigned. It was launched, and so the website was completely revamped. Everyone was happy, at least they thought, until they realized that their analytics tracking wasn't included on all of the pages. There was actually 25% of the pages that didn't have any tracking on them. So they were basically a blind box. You didn't know what happened on those pages, if they were generating leads or revenue, or like even if they were getting traffic. So what happened is, like, team is basically checking out the analytics, and they see conversions go down, and they thought that the redesign wasn't converting as well as the previous design. So they started looking into that and running all these analyses, while actually the analytics tracking code wasn't present. So they were not tracking part of what was going on the website. The problem with this is that, like, you lose information during the period where the analytics tracking isn't present. Plus, you may spend a lot of time investigating this from all sides, taking all angles to try to fix this, while actually the fix is a very simple thing. And the problem is just, analytics code, tracking code wasn't placed on all of the sites. There was an issue with Google Tag Manager, some conditions. It was fixed in a couple of minutes, but you need to know that that's the actual issue before you're able to fix it, of course. So yeah, the fix was basically implementing the analytics tracking code there as well. This happens more often than you'd think as well. And it should be part of like a website launch checklist to make sure that analytics is properly running as well. But it's not always included. All right, so that brings us to the poll question. What tools or processes do you use to prevent SEO disasters? There we go.
All right, I went ahead and launched the poll. Yeah, and this question really speaks to even that 6th disaster that you're talking about, with kind of having that visual, kind of having all that that data for exactly what's going on with your site, and just trying to imagine a world where you own a website, and you don't have Google Analytics, or you don't have something to tell you what what is going on your site. Because websites can be 5-10 pages of a blog, or 40,000, 30,000 products that are constantly changing, and it's just this the sheer size of it to monitor is staggering. So it's so important. So yeah, we'd like to see what you guys what everybody out there uses. So go ahead and close that. Thank you everybody for voting.
Cool.
Excellent.
All right, so if you have any questions, you can just drop them in the questions tab on the control panel. Do you know if there are any questions yet, Colin?
Not thus far, but yeah, please feel free to submit your questions. One thing that I think is not really talked a lot about is is the relationship kind of between the graphic design, the development, and the SEO kind of those kind of houses kind of getting along, and it's such an important conversation. I would like to know more too, kind of about kind of sculpting your robots.txt page that's kind of more of a domain level, and maybe sculpting it kind of page by page, and kind of doing that, because I think that's an important thing, because it's so easy to get wrong. So I guess my question would be, when you're designing a robots.txt page, Stephen, what are some important best practices to really kind of keep in mind so that you don't accidentally shoot yourself in the foot, so to speak?
You mean the robots.txt file, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So what I usually do is I start off with a clean robots.txt file, which includes basically the reference to the XML sitemap, and then as I'm basically going through the website, just crawling it, and I see certain pages that I don't want search engines to even access, I'll just put those in the robots.txt. Often with a wildcard, because you'd want to exclude perhaps entire folders. So I usually take that approach. The issue that you may have is if you just dump a whole list of directives in the robots.txt file and you launch it, you may be limiting access too much. Something which is very useful to do is basically check whether certain pages are accessible in Google Search Console. Google has built this feature where you can basically just drop in a URL, and they will test that URL against your robots.txt file and tell you if it's accessible by them. So when in doubt, just drop it in there and see if it's accessible.
That's excellent. Yeah, because it's all. I mean, there's a lot of things at play there, because there's the building the robot dots. You want to keep search engines out of private data, right? If it's customers, if there's any card data or address, name, address, phone number, you want to keep customers out of that sensitive, or search engines out of that sensitive information. But you also want to design your site so that the way that your subfolders are arranged, that you don't accidentally put public information in with the private stuff, and you block out that inadvertently. So that's really important. So we have some questions here. So from Devin here, it says, if a site has duplicate meta tags, or the page you are building links to is a no-follow, should we even be building links to that page or site? Kind of an interesting question there. What's your take on that, Stephen?
Mm-hmm. So double meta tags, it kind of depends on what they say. It depends on the search engine as well. They may choose to ignore the meta robots tags altogether if there's more than one defined. So that's always something to be aware of. You should only basically have one. That's the answer to the first question. The second one is actually, like, is it useful to even build links to a page that has the no follow meta robot setting, basically? How search engines look at that is they will basically treat all of the links on the page as a no-follow link. So those links will not pass any authority. So in terms of SEO and link building, your efforts are pretty much wasted. So I would focus on pages that are indexable and that have like regular links on them without the no-follow attribute. Those have the largest impact. So if you follow the best practices, that's what I would do. Yeah.
I think it's absolutely good, a good rule of thumb. I guess the caveat to that I would just add is that if there's no other option, if as a link builder you don't necessarily always have control over the page, if whether or not the page is meta no followed, or if the meta descriptions are off or duplicate, then at that point you might still want to be building links there from a customer experience point of view. And if you can share, maybe even sharing that page out over social media, well, those, the traffic and the exposure there and the kind of the PR part of it, the awareness part of it is good, but the equity, you're exactly right, that equity is not going to pass along as readily as if it were fully indexable, fully fully crawlable and all that. So so good questions there. So next question from, I hope I'm pronouncing this correctly, Joao, J-O-A-O. So they say, I've used Content King. It is way better than Screaming Frog, especially the UX and possible features in real time. Do you have more features to launch soon? Cheers. Awesome question, and nice little shout out there. So thank you for that.
Yeah, thanks. So yeah, we have a bunch of features coming up regarding Content King. So what we're currently working on is weekly email reports where we give you an overview of all of the changes and the issues in your site. We're working on a learning feature which lets you basically go out and about and you'll get an alert when something big happens in your sites, like big issue or a big change. So it's like, if you don't hear from us, you know everything is good, and based on the alerting, you can basically stick to your schedule for the day, or basically move things around and jump into whatever requires your attention. We're working on a WordPress plugin as well, which communicates to our APIs and basically triggers crawling. So if you have the WordPress plugin, we'll basically signal our crawlers using the plugin when we detect changes in the site to make it even more real time. And further down the line, I can see us adding integration with Google Analytics, Google Search Console, and perhaps even backlink data providers and rankings. But the email reports and the alerts and the plugin, that's some of the things that are coming up in the next couple of weeks, basically.
So what you're saying is that with Content King, you can go and hand out cake confidently, and unless you hear something from you, then we'll just stop handing out cake. Yeah. And I can say personally, I agree. I definitely agree with the questioner. The Content King is beautiful. Like the interface, everything looks really good, very modern, and from that walkthrough that you showed me, I was just very impressed. And so I look forward to seeing more great things to come from you guys.
Cool. That's good to hear. Shall we move on to basically the parting thoughts?
Actually, we have one more question here real quick from Kyle.
Yeah.
Kyle asks, what are best practices when reconciliating large amounts of 301 redirects created on a single site over the years? So basically, best practices when you have large amounts of 301 redirects created on one site, on one domain over the years. Because that's one thing. You know, if you have a large domain that's been around for a long time, things change so often. New
Definitely.
products get added. They cycle out, they cycle in. How do we keep it straight?
Yeah. So that's actually a really good question. Something I would advise anyone like dealing with this issue is like every couple of months, just go through the list of 301 redirects and clean up whatever is not needed. So what I often see is that 301 redirects are created to basically help search engines and users find the new location of the content. But maybe just 10% of the URLs that are being redirected have actual links from other sites. And those are the ones you want to keep in there. But the 90% of the the redirects for basically redirecting an old URL to a new URL can be cleaned up after a while, because users and search engines will have found the new location of the content. So that's something I would do, is like a scheduled cleanup process. You can automate bits of it, but it requires some manual tasks. But it's an important point to raise, because over time your list of 301 redirects can include maybe even millions of lines. And depending on the platform and the way it's implemented, it may slow down the entire platform, because upon requesting a URL, that entire list may need to be checked for any 301 redirects before the visitors actually been given the content they asked for.
I'll just add in to always be careful of the difference between 301 and 302 redirects when we're using those.
Yep.
One disaster, this isn't in the slide deck, but this is a disaster I've personally seen, is that a lot of sites will be taken down for maintenance, right? And that's totally normal. So typically for maintenance, you'll basically 302, you'll soft redirect basically every page to the maintenance page, right? But what I've seen is that instead of 302s, they'll 301 over to the maintenance page and say everything is permanently moved to this page and to the maintenance page, and then the maintenance page starts showing up in search engines, and it's a whole disaster. So definitely, kind of the difference between 301 and 302 is something to really keep in mind.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I agree.
All right, well that's our questions. Yeah, let's move on to some parting thoughts here.
Cool. All right, so you have to assume things go wrong, and you'll have to accept that some of it you'll completely miss. But you should never stop trying to fix it from happening in the first place. And often it can be avoided. And my theory is, my philosophy is that you monitor what you care about. So if you care about your website, you monitor it. Like if your baby is sleeping in the other room and you're in another room, like you may have a baby monitor on. If you're a system administrator managing hundreds of servers, you need to have monitoring in place as well. And even though it's not that common yet for websites to do monitoring, I would highly recommend it. If your website is essential to your business, you should be monitoring it. If you care about it, monitor it. Nobody likes SEO surprises, so when they happen, be sure you find out about them like as soon as you can. And that's actually something I've been discussing with Colin. There's different ways to go about this. Like you can do like a manual check using some predefined process and checking a bunch of stuff manually to see if everything is okay. You'll be taking like a sample of the site to be able to check if if your SEO is all right. That becomes challenging when the platform is larger than a couple hundred pages. And it becomes increasingly challenging because it is increasingly challenging because you the whole process is depending on you doing the actual work, while it's actually something you should be automating. So you could use a tool like Screaming Frog to do like I don't know, a monthly crawl and compare all of the information from the old crawl to the new crawl. But even that's quite cumbersome. It takes you quite a lot of time to be able to do that. And like, what if something goes wrong within that month time span? You'll only find out as you're basically doing the new crawl. And that's basically where Content King comes in. We basically monitor websites in real time. So we keep track of all of the issues, and like using the dashboard, you can jump in quickly and just investigate some issue types and fix them. You can track all of the changes that we're detecting. So like from one day to the next, you may see you've lost a couple of hundred pages. So it's something to look into if you're not expecting that. And this is actually something no other tool can do, which is pretty interesting. Like from an SEO point of view, this is very cool. And the alerts for being able to go to the bar, knowing that your website is okay, or handing out cakes to the team members involved in the website redesign is a very useful one. It's currently in beta. We expect to launch it in a couple of weeks. That's going to be great. So for the Page One Power webinar attendees, we have a special discount, 20% lifetime discount off whatever plan you have with us. If you're interested and you want it, you can just send me an email, and I'll be sure to apply the discount. If you have any questions, let me know. Thank you for joining us. Giving back the controls to Colin.
Yeah, thank you so much, and really appreciate it, Stephen. And again, we're really happy to be speaking with you today. I just want to send out a one last poll question real quick, and just, would you like to know more about Page One Power or Content King? What we can do for your website, and especially kind of a really good kind of demonstration on what Content King can do in general, just helping kind of to avoid those disasters, really being able to kind of sleep at night with confidence, hand out cakes with confidence, knowing that there are continuous monitoring systems in place. And also, Stephen, I just really enjoy just your, just the way you were able to kind of take those different disasters and really, really kind of break them down and kind of show us exactly what was going on, what were the effects were, and kind of how to solve those. I think is really important too. So yeah, I definitely learned a lot. Really kind of helped expand my knowledge for kind of avoiding these. So I really appreciate that. So, all right, I'm going to go ahead and close the poll there. Thank you everybody for voting. Yeah, thank you everybody for joining us on today's webinar. I'll go ahead and sign us out here and say that this has been another edition of the Page One Power panel series, webinar panel series rather. We were happy you could join us today. Recordings will be available on our website and on our YouTube channel shortly after this broadcast, along with all of our past webinars. Keep an eye out for more exciting webinars from the Page One Power in the future, and remember, link unto others as they would link unto you. Thank you, everybody.
Cool. Thanks, guys.
Cheers.